NASCAR has struck gold with this Pocono doubleheader. 2 races back to back, 2 incredible finishes. We have a lot to talk about in this Pocono doubleheader on the Sunday edition. If you want to watch what took place on Saturday, you can click the video in the description box down below, or there'll be a card on the top right of your screen that will click you to the Saturday video. But if you've already watched that, then you're all caught up to date. So Sunday, I had a feeling that Sunday's race would not be as action-packed, or at least as unpredictable, because these guys have a notebook. They know how the tires are going to act. They know basically they get a feel of what the race is going to be like. Unlike last time where you were going in with more of an unknown perspective, but this race also had an unknown perspective, especially we got once again another thrilling fuel mileage race. Pocono is starting to become the home of fuel mileage races. We had one here back in 2015, not that long ago. So, I was shocked. This race, even with this high downforce package, there wasn't a lot of passing on the racetrack. It was really more just like yesterday's race, all about strategy. If you want to get ahead of the guy or of the other drivers, if you want to get an edge in your competition, it all came down to your strategy and your calls on pit road. Now, we had a bunch of drivers start at the rear of the field. Justin Allgaier made a start in this race today, replacing Justin Haley after he suffered a hard crash in the Xfinity race earlier today. We also had Ryan Preece, Anthony Alfredo, Ross Chastain, Corey LaJoie, Ryan Newman, Cole Custer, and Kyle Larson. All those drivers suffered damage from Saturday's race. They had to get repaired and had to start at the rear of the field for today's race. So because of the inverted starting grid thing, you had Michael McDowell and Chris Buescher start on the front row. Immediately, the first caution comes out on lap number 3 with Anthony Alfredo. He cuts a tire on lap 2 in the tunnel turn and hits the wall, then hits the wall again in turn number 3. So it was just overall just a horrible doubleheader weekend for Anthony Alfredo. When we got back to the restart, Chris Buescher was pushed all the way down into turn number 1, I believe by Christopher Bell behind him, and he just lost a ton of ground, went from first or second to 15th like that. So because of that, Michael McDowell, the Daytona 500 champion, was out in front and led, I believe, 10 or 11 laps before the usual suspects. So I shouldn't say usual suspects because Martin Truex Jr., he surprisingly had a pretty good day. He had a lot of speed. Very surprising when you consider the fact that on how poorly the 19 team has been in the past races. They showed a little bit of speed. They weren't a factor necessarily, but they showed some speed. He took the lead from Michael McDowell with Christopher Bell in second. I believe William Byron in third. Now, while they were up front, we were looking at the usual suspects that we saw from Saturday's race. Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, and Kyle Larson. Kyle Busch, he gained 12 spots right off the bat and was already up into 7th place. While you had Byron stuck in mid-pack in 16th, Bowman in 20th when he reported a vibration during that part of the race, Hamlin 21st, and Larson 23rd. Larson had a very eventful day. Now, this took place halfway in stage number 1. Now, the reason why Larson had a very eventful day was because when you get stuck and you restart in the middle of the pack, there could be cause for stack ups. Look what happened to Chase Elliott. At the beginning of the race, he had a stack up on the left rear of his car, and his car was never the same. Kind of similar with Kyle Larson. Going to turn number 1, a stack up happened in front of Larson, and Larson just ran into the back end of Hamlin's car and made a big dent on the front nose where the Chevy logo comes to a point on the nose of the car. That was completely bent in. So much so that the team needed to make repairs after the stage break. It affected his car in terms of speed and performance, but if you saw how this race played out, it had nothing to do with speed. You just had to be able to get enough fuel in your tank. So Martin Truex Jr. would win that stage. You had Bell, Kyle Busch, William Byron, and Chase Elliott pit with 3 to go. Truex stayed out. He wins the stage. Almirola would come home in second. Keselowski in third. Blaney in fourth. Bubba Wallace in 5th place. McDowell 6th. Stenhouse 7th. Daniel Suarez in 8th, or Tyler Reddick, I should say, in 8th. Daniel Suarez in 9th. And round out the top 10 is Joey Logano. William Byron on the final lap. Actually, in fact, mere feet from the finish line, he was able to get by Martin Truex Jr. to get his lap back, which would be very important, as we would see later on in the race. Had he not gone his lap back in stage 1, he more than likely would not have been a factor for the race win. So stage 2 was when troubles began for Kyle Busch, which seems to be happening a lot lately. Lately, the 18 team has been bringing a lot of speed to the racetracks, but they've always been having problems come out their way, and today was no exception. He reports transmission issues popping out of 4th gear. Take a listen.
We're going to have a problem here the rest of the day. I don't know if we'll be able to make it. So the trans is popping out of 4th gear. It won't stay in. If I hold it back like really hard, it'll stay, but I'm not sure I can maintain that.
So while Kyle Busch is dealing with that problem, out in front you had drivers like Ryan Blaney, his teammate Brad Keselowski, and Austin Dillon. They all stayed out to begin stage 2 to start out in the front. They would all stay on the racetrack until 39 laps ago when they would pit for fuel. Larson would also pit for fuel and 2 tires. Truex was the first driver to have pitted at the end of stage number 1 in 6. Ryan Blaney had to come back on the pit road after suffering a loose wheel. Then Kyle Busch becomes a new leader. He was, again, with the transmission issues, it was popping out of 4th gear. It didn't seem to bother him at first, let's just say, because he was singing "Flying Like an Eagle." I mean, you must be in a good mood, even if you have transmission issues. If you are singing "Flying Like an Eagle," you have to be in a pretty good mood, to say the least, even with all the transmission issues and problems that Kyle Busch was having during that time. So you had William Byron behind Kyle Busch, and Byron attempts to perform an undercut on Kyle and pits with 20 laps to go. Kyle Busch stays out for another 8 laps, then pits. When he pits, that is when we saw the first real problem of having your transmission stuck in 4th gear ensue. When he's done with this pit stop, he wants to take off. The problem is that he's in 4th gear, so he can't take off. It takes him a long time for him to finally get the car going off of pit road. He pitted as a leader, he would fall back to 9th when pit stops were settled. And at the end, William Byron would become the new race leader after pit stop cycle through, and he would go on to win stage number 2 with Hamlin in 2nd, Keselowski 3rd, Bell in 4th, Elliott 5th, Truex 6th, Larson and Busch. Busch still managed to finish in the top 10, 8th in that stage 2 result, 9th Eric Almirola and Austin Dillon in 10th. Stage 3, Kyle Busch continuing having issues with transmission problems, so much so that I believe he even said that the clutch was gone in his car, and the team just told him, just try and make it to the end. I mean, they really took themselves out of position to win this race. As somebody just said, just make it to the end. Just try and do that. Don't even worry about the win. Just make it to the end. Now, on a restart, when stage 3 began, Eric Jones made contact, suffered good damage between him and Corey LaJoie after a stack up once again. That also involved Cole Custer. He left debris around turns 1 and I think in turn 1, coming off of turn number 1 onto the Long Pong front stretch, and brought out the caution for the 4th time, and which would be the final time for debris. So when that caution came out, that put everyone in an odd situation in terms of fuel and pit strategy. And it was right then when a lot of us thought, okay, we might see, if this thing were to go green, this could play out to be a very, very interesting fuel mileage race. So Denny Hamlin and a bunch of others, they only pit for fuel. William Byron pits for 4 tires. Truex, Kurt Busch, and Joe Logano, they pit for just 2 tires. Bell and Alex Bowman, they restart the race with 45 laps to go. And this is when all hell started to break loose for a little bit, especially with Christopher Bell. Coming off of turn number 3, Chastain being very aggressive, made a pretty stupid move, just kept on riding on the side of Christopher Bell's car. They both go up into the wall. Bell suffers damage. Chastain suffers damage to the point where he has to come on the pit road. But Bell stays out on the racetrack. 1 lap later, Chase Elliott underneath Christopher Bell at the same exact part of the track. Elliott gets loose, hits Christopher Bell. Bell gets sideways and backs it into the wall. He keeps it straight, keeps it going, no caution, but it was a double whammy. First, he gets put in the wall by Chastain, and then 1 lap later, gets put in the wall again by Elliott. This time, he suffered a lot more damage, and he came onto pit road, had to make repairs to his car, and was out of the race. Now, because of that contact, Chase Elliott would then cut a right front tire, so then he has to give up his 3rd place spot to pit. And then he'd have to pit 1 lap later again because the tire was flat again. That all happened within 1 or 2 laps of each other. So right then and there, it was going to be a crazy race. At least I thought from a competition standpoint, in terms of I thought the race was going to be action-packed due to drivers hitting each other and things like that. But like I said, fuel strategy was the name of the game for this race, especially once we got under 30 to go. So you had Bowman as the race leader. Harvick was in second, Keselowski, Reddick, and McDowell. That is a top 5, but they have to pit. There's no way they can make it to the end. They have to pit. Harvick pissed 28 laps ago. Bowman pissed 3 laps later, only for fuel. Now this is very important to know, to point out. I believe Kyle Busch pits around the same time that Kevin Harvick pits, around lap 27, lap 26, pits 1 lap later. Their hope, the only way they could even think about having a shot at winning, is if this thing goes to the end. That's the only way they can have a shot either at winning or at least getting a good finish. Once Bowman pitted, positions 3rd to 13th, they all pitted around lap 94-95, including Kyle Busch, which is just around that fuel window. And basically all of them are around 2 to 3 laps short on fuel and had to save and save and save to make it. Kevin Harvick, who was 14th at that time, he can go all out. You know, he just pitted on lap 112. He can go all out to the very end. But everyone else, except for Keselowski, because Keselowski at this time was still leading and he had to pit. There was no way he was going to make it. But from 3rd on back, 3rd to 13th, they were all in fuel saving mode. Then, with 9 laps to go, was when everything started to fall into Kyle Busch's hands. He was reported running in 5th at the time. As crew chief told him, you can make it. You can go all out. Then, right after that, his teammate Denny Hamlin, who was right in front of him, he's told that he can make it and that he can go all out. Keselowski pits with 8 laps to go. That gives the lead to William Byron. Now, Byron was also around the lap 94, lap 95 pit area window, but he hasn't been saving. And he, now, with 8 laps to go, he's in max fuel save mode. The problem is that 2 things. Number 1, he didn't save any fuel before that. He was just running his race. You know, wasn't even worrying about fuel. Now, he is near empty and now has to try and save. On top of that, Hamlin and Kyle Busch are now just 4 seconds behind. It's not like other situations where you have an 18, 19, 20 second gap. 4 seconds. You have to save in max fuel mode while the other 2 drivers behind you can go all out. And every single lap, the gap was getting smaller and smaller. 7 to go. 7 to go, Byron's lead, 3 seconds. 6 to go, under 2 seconds. With 3 to go, Byron reported low fuel pressure, and coming to 2 laps to go, he pits for fuel. That gives the lead to Denny Hamlin. However, Hamlin, coming to the final lap, he also reports low on fuel, and he has to pit. That gives the lead to Kyle Busch, who we all thought was out of it. He had another crew member in his car trying to help him with the shifter to help with this transmission problem. He is now out in front, is able to save enough fuel, and goes on to win at Pocono for a second career win at the Tricky Triangle, his second win of 2021, and breaks, I believe, a 6th consecutive win streak by Hendrick Motorsports. I think, really, to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure I don't know. I feel like this race kind of set up almost exactly like the first race on Saturday, just without the exception of a fuel mileage race. The entire race was all about strategy. All about strategy. Fuel. You know, how much fuel? When do you pit? Kind of similar to what happened yesterday. But this race was really fun to watch. And also, I got to stop doing this, but NBC once again deserves a round of applause. Because how they presented that fuel mileage race, they did a phenomenal job and upped the ante on the excitement and the anticipation and the intensity of that Pocono finish. So well job to everyone at NBC. Man, it was really a fun race to watch, especially the fuel mileage race. I know we don't get that as often because of stage racing, so it's nice to see every once in a while a fuel mileage race come into play. And yeah, that was one that I really enjoyed, and I think this race is up there with yesterday's race for one of the best Pocono races in a long time. It's kind of funny. Back to back, 2 Pocono races in a row, 2 incredible races, 2 incredible finishes. NASCAR has done an incredible job by picking Pocono as a doubleheader race weekend. They were short, quick, fast, and intense. And that's how we like it, or at least that's how I like it. So here's a look at the unofficial results. Kyle Busch wins second. Somehow, even with all the issues that he had, Larson somehow still manages to finish in second. Third, Brad Keselowski. Now, when Keselowski pitted with 8 laps to go, he did a splash and go. And he was the only drivers like Kevin Harvick that could go all out to the very end because everyone else was saving. Keselowski could just charge all the way to the finish, and he did just that. That's why he was able to still somehow finish in third. Harvick in fourth. How about my boy Bubba Wallace? Let's go. But finally, his first top 5, his first top 10 of the year. A 5th place finish for Bubba Wallace with the new sponsor DraftKings on the hood. They had a really good day. They finished 5th in stage number 1. They had a really solid day. And I do believe that, with Bubba and his team, they have speed in their cars. It's just that if it goes their way, they can be able to capitalize on it. And today was just one of those days where they were able to capitalize. They were in the right position at the right time and got a top 5 finish out of that. Whale of a job for Bubba. Let's go. And his buddy, Ryan Blaney, right behind him in 6th place. 7th, Alex Bowman. Nice top 10 finish for him. Ryan Preece in 8th. Something good going on for that JTG Daughtry team, for that 37 team. 9th is Tyler Reddick, and Joe Logano rounds out the top 10. Marchuk Jr. with his first, I think his second top 12 finish since his win at Darlington. 12th is William Byron. 13th, Austin Dillon. 14th, Denny Hamlin. 15th is Suarez, Almirola, McDowell, DiBenedetto, Buescher, and Kurt Busch. They round out the top 20. Then you got Chase Briscoe, Ryan Newman, Corey LaJoie, Cole Custer, Justin Allgaier manages to get a top 25 finish. Nice job for that 77 team. Chastain, 26th. Chase Elliott in 27th. Chase Elliott these past weeks have not been too kind for the defending champion. Had that issue yesterday by getting damaged at the beginning of the race. Last weekend having his finish DQ'd at Nashville, and now a 27th finish here today. Not a good time for the 9 team. And here's a look at the other drivers. Eric Jones, 31st. Bell, 32nd. Alfredo, 34th. And then Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he lost a cylinder, and not too long after, expired the engine, took it to the garage. He finishes dead last. Now let's take a look at the playoff grid with just 7 races to go until the playoffs begin. Larson, 32 playoff points, still number 1. Kyle Busch now up to 4th. 13 playoff points for the 18 team. Let's take a look at the right side of your screen though. Dillon, Reddick, Kurt Busch, they're in the danger zone. 91 points ahead for Dillon, 48 for Reddick. Only a mere 3 points. Kurt Busch is above the cut line on Chris Buescher. How about this? Daniel Suarez and Bubba Wallace, the 2 brand new teams in NASCAR Trackhouse and 2311 Racing, they're now all in the top 20. Suarez in 18th, minus 48, and Bubba Wallace tied with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. for 19th in points, minus 54. So yeah, my reaction for this race, I really covered everything I wanted to say at the beginning or the middle portions of the video, but again, overall, I think NASCAR, they did a phenomenal job at deciding Pocono as a doubleheader. Short, fast, quick, intense, exciting racing the entire weekend on both Saturday and Sunday. Nice to get a fuel mileage race because, like I said, with stage racing, you don't see that often. So it's nice to go back in the past for a little bit and relive a fuel mileage race. Overall, again, great job by NBC by portraying how they portrayed that race, especially with the fuel mileage and seeing what other drivers are doing, what their stories are like. So huge shout out to them. And yeah, I mean, these next few races are going to be a lot of fun to watch because next weekend we're going to Road America in Wisconsin, Elkhart Lake for another road course on the schedule. That playoff battle between Kurt Busch, Chris Buescher. Now you can throw in Bubba Wallace, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Daniel Suarez in the mix because they're not that far behind now. Got a lot of great races coming up, and I am excited. So yeah, 2 great races, 2 great finishes. And yeah, no, I don't know what else to say really, but what are your thoughts on this race? I enjoyed it. I love both races, but what are your thoughts on this race in the comment section down below? I am still in shock by how Kyle Busch somehow managed to get back into contention and win this race. Truly phenomenal performance because now, and I said this, if there was any driver that could challenge Kyle Larson, it's Kyle Busch. And he proved it today. Yes, it's a fuel mileage race, and it really wasn't all about speed and performance. It was more about just having enough fuel to the end. But still, he was in 4th gear. I mean, not only do you have to save fuel, you're stuck in 4th gear. So, yeah, you didn't have to do much when you're on the racetrack because you don't shift anymore at Pocono. But still, after all the issues that he had today, still managed to overcome that and win and beat Kyle Larson. That's a statement to how competitive and how strong Kyle Busch can be under any situation. And they're going to put up a fight for Kyle Larson, not only for the rest of the regular season, but also for the championship when we get into the playoffs. And that is something I cannot wait to see. But yeah, that is it. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. But until next time, my name is Jet from MDK. Congratulations to Kyle Busch, your winner of the second race at Pocono.